My uncle was a machinist in Buffalo, New York area. One of the pieces that he worked on was used in the rocket that landed on the moon. And he remembers getting a poster, and it said, "This is the piece you worked on." And he said at that point, he wanted to return to his native traditions. So he left his job, moved to Canada. I moved in with him. And so, we got totally immersed in our foods, our culture, our language.
Part of our culture is who we are as a nation. And being that nation, we have to let people know that this is who we are. Started walking on the Red Road, we call it, in 1988 was when the first sweat lodge came to the island. And that's when I started my journey on this path.
I think back to the moment I realized I was going to be a dad for the first time. I realized I had to do a lot of work in healing and taking some time to address childhood trauma that was unaddressed for many years. Taking time to reach out to mental health professionals and for how do I navigate through fatherhood and loving my family when I had to still learn how to love myself.
When my mom got diagnosed with diabetes, we all kind of took a look at it and understanding we might be more susceptible to it. And she radically just immediately changed her diet. So we looked more at less potatoes, less glucose. Obviously, a lot of breads are right off the table, pastas. Those were big staples in our house growing up. But we're kind of now into a paleo diet. So we eat lots of just meat and vegetables, and that seems to be great for everybody. She's done really, really well. She's lost a ton of weight, and she's right on the cusp of not being diagnosed with diabetes anymore. So that's been pretty incredible.
We know through medical research the odds of an Indigenous youth developing diabetes. We know that ourselves are at risk. It's having that knowledge going into it and realizing if I don't change what's been done in the past, they will be just as susceptible to type 1 or type 2 diabetes.
My wife was actually diabetic. I walked with her for 32 years. And when I lost her, it's kind of like my walk stopped.
My uncle made some medicine for our neighbor across the road. And he mentioned then that, that this person had diabetes and said, there's a good chance he wouldn't have got that, if he had been eating our traditional foods. When we would attend ceremonies, because there was a lot of poverty in our communities, it was the situation that you were expected to cook something or bring something. A lot of times it would be fry bread. What I realized much later was that at the end of the ceremony, you were just eating a lot of flour, which wasn't good.
For a lot of Indigenous men, traditionally you had a position of a high importance position within the community. If you're a hunter, you're always providing. So it's a status position. We're moving into a different time now where that's not really an option. It's not really the sustenance that most families have nowadays.
I was in my 40s when I first accessed my harvesting rights. Through that process, I began to think of my grandfather and how he was hunting and fishing as a youngster. And then I started remembering the times that I went with him. And I was delighted because the memories were so fond. But I could also remember his really good fishing spots.
I got a crash course in Indigenous issues. Everything from food insecurity, housing crisis, water crisis, diabetes. I just saw an issue and I started to just focus in on it. And that was like the big thing for just myself is like, especially for like Indigenous men, there's a lot of lack of like purpose.
When I consider the idea of trauma and intergenerational trauma, we want to feel good as Indigenous men. And often I think we look to those things that make us feel happy. For some, it may be alcohol. For others, it may be a chocolate bar.
When we bring people together, the sweat lodges are probably one of the most important things that we have. I remember the first sweat I was in, whatever it was that was inside me was coming out because of that sweat. All the weight that we were carrying or some of the stuff that we were carrying. So when we come out, it's a different feeling from the first time we went in. If it wasn't for the sweat lodge or the culture, I probably would go back to drinking. I really would. See, it's been 40 years since my last drink. And the culture has helped me a lot.
I had no real big background in agriculture. I learned how to do this stuff off of YouTube. I decided that I wanted to get into the vertical farming, and then that didn't work out, so then I built a greenhouse. I was producing 200-300 heads of lettuce a week. When I look at Six Nations in my home community, I can make an impact there. That's 16,000 people. I think I can make enough lettuce for everybody. I think I could probably grow enough berries for everybody. The land is there, it's just someone's got to start doing it. We've done well, and we're building 3 more greenhouses out on the territory of Six Nations. The main priority is just getting healthier foods and more options available for everybody. In our community alone, we now have over 300 families accessing the food bank every week. The average family size is 5 people, so 1,500 people are going to the food bank every week. A lot of those are kids. And maybe 8 years ago, that wasn't something that really lit a light in me, like, okay, kids. But now that I have kids, like my mentality has completely changed, and it hurts to know like any kid is hungry or not eating nutritious foods, eating poor foods, and like it's tough.
I remember being in a healing circle where the one young man said that the only time he learned anything about his culture was when he was in jail. That made me realize, how vital circles were, opportunities to talk, that especially for men, to open up, to be able to discuss some of the problems and be comfortable, and made me realize how much work, needs to be done really within the family and the households.
We need to go back to our elders, our grandmothers and grandfathers, our medicine people. And a lot of them are getting older, and we call them the sleeping elders because nobody asked them questions. They know how to deal with this diabetes thing because some of those elders are still very healthy, because they follow that route of the planting. They follow the animals. They know where the fish are. They know all this. But putting it all together, we need to go back there and talk to them, sit with them, so that they teach us back. So that way we can teach our men how to get back into that hunting and planting.
For me, having that knowledge of this food's most likely better for us. And if anybody's appreciated a tenderloin after a successful hunt, they would understand how really great traditional food can be. Harvesting is something that I'm reintroducing to my children, and that's a pastime that is far from a screen and close to the land and the water. It's nice.
So growing up, we had chickens, we had turkeys. So I have a little bit of a background in that. And we decided to get a couple chickens, just a small coop. We have 9 birds, going to be 13 now. We raised 4 more chicks this year. And just when you crack a free-range fresh egg and compare it to a store-bought egg, completely different. You're making decisions that are going to have an impact 7 generations later. So when you're making your decisions now, always be thinking far into the future, because that 7 generations, you got to focus on the kids, and that's where you're going to make the biggest impact.
Jamanero, giganona, mosean, giganona, jamanero, hey, ho. Mishomes, giganona, mosean, giganona, mishomes, hey,